in the beginning here, I would say probably last year around September or something like that, me and my wife decided to make sure and get some information to fix our credit and to get what's necessary to do, the right things to get us on the right track. Um, it was difficult because up to that point we had a difficult journey. Um, so we kind of took it upon ourselves to do what need to be done because, as I will go into later, um, credit repair companies charge a great deal for those services. So, we had to find other options. But before I get into all that, I just realized if you don't know me, if you don't know my face, if you don't know my brand, this is Millionaire Insight LLC. This is my company. My name is Nicholas Francis, aka Mr. Millionaire Insight. So if you do not know, now you know. So I appreciate you taking the time. So back to our story here. So a little bit over 11 months ago now, we decided to do something different, and we decided to take a look into how to fix our credit because didn't really we didn't really have too much satisfaction of where we were, or we knew we wanted to do certain things, but we knew that we needed to do things differently than we had. So I'm going to outline in this workshop here what it is that we did, some of the concepts that I learned, just sharing where we came from and how it could possibly help other people. Because at the end of the day, that's why we go through trials and tribulations in life. So one of the things that we thought about was, okay, if we can't go the traditional route of just getting a credit card, right? What do we do? So we started from step one. So we decided to find out, what is credit? So by definition, credit is the ability for our customers to obtain goods and services before payment, and is based on trust that payment will be made in future. So in layman's terms, they trust you to borrow whatever sum of money with the understanding that you're going to pay them back. So, a lot of people, because of that statement, would think credit is kind of scary. And I know personally, even in the Christian community, because the Bible says, it talks about the borrower being slave to the lender. But what we know is that because of that mindset, that we have used that statement to become fearful of things like borrowing money, getting loans, getting credit cards. It can be very intimidating, and you can understand why people are apprehensive about getting into stuff. But knowing that, yes, you are borrowing money, you are leveraging, someone else's money and someone else's trust in you in order to move ahead, you know, it's very understandable why people feel the way that they do, especially in the church. But this is why we're here to dispel some of the biggest myths behind credit. So I want to go through about 5 of the biggest myths about credit, and I will throw in the 6th one at the end here, just so you understand. So we get all those kind of cleared away. There's so many things that goes around with credit and finance and misconceptions that people might have. So I just wanted to do 5 of them because we have a little bit over an hour here, so I wanted to get into as much as I could. So I chose 5. So number 1, credit cards are evil or it's a bad thing. We just went over community perception of credit, but here's the thing about that. When you learn what credit is, I liken it to this analogy. Having credit and having a credit card or having a loan, any access to credit, is like a high caliber weapon. If you are trained to know what it is you're doing, you can really make moves. You can really do things that matter. You can really make a difference in a situation. Or you can liken it unto any major building tool in construction. It can be used to build. That is the consensus. You can use credit to build on things, to build wealth, right? That's what people need to understand about it, right? It is not an evil thing because of the fact that mindset can lead you down to the road of you don't understand and you're not willing to learn. And how you overcome that perception of credit being an evil thing is by learning exactly what it is, right? So the second one I wanted to go into is, it's a common one. It will always help my credit score to pay balances in full. That one is a bit of a murky one because you'll get a lot of different credit gurus that will tell you, okay, no, it is best to leave a balance on your credit card and just go throughout the month, sorry, and continue to go that way. Like you use the balance, you have a $500 limit, but you only use like maybe $400, and you pay off like 300, so there's $100 left over that you have outstanding to pay. That is something that people go through, but also it can be a double-edged sword with paying things off early. It depends on how you do it. So people will have like 10 or 15 different credit cards, and they'll figure, okay, one has high interest, and they'll decide, okay, I want to close out an account. So that kind of payment, your payment history, is what you don't want to have come off of your credit. But you also have to keep in mind that you're being monitored every month or every 2 months or whatever it is that the credit bureaus monitor. So they're watching to see, and lenders are watching to see how you're performing and how you're managing the credit that's available to you. So one of the things to remember, that when you deal with these credit companies, like the credit bureau specifically, you have to know that your credit score is an accumulative thing. So there's many different factors to it. So that's one thing to understand and to keep in mind as we go through this here. So the third myth, I should say, is that bad credit is a permanent financial death sentence. It is a big red stain across my financial life. I'm here to tell you, no, it is not this final thing. All it is that you have to understand that even though it's just like anything in life, if you've fallen, you can get back up. The thing is, a lot of us stay down there. You have really bad credit and you say, okay, I'm not gonna try to fix it, because what's the point? Because they'll go into, oh yeah, well, I can't get an apartment now, they check credit to get a job, so I'm just not gonna do what it is I wanted to do, because I don't have the credit. And people just go through that and it's like, okay, I'm just use cash. But that's the thing, is that if you work through step by step, you will be able to move one step at a time to the point where you can actually get what's called good credit. These credit bureaus, they were intimidating. So I thought I needed someone in a suit and tie behind the desk, behind the computer, to tell me what to do. And listen, you tell me and I'll follow you. So spent a couple $100 and figured that it would work that way. However, after almost a year, I was no better off than I started. And obviously today I'm sitting here telling you that we're in a better situation credit wise than we were before. And we did it primarily on our own. And obviously with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and going through that and going through the whole process and learning about it before we attempt something, and asking a professional. So that's one thing I want to remind us here. One of the things that I always talk about in any live, in any video that I do, in any audio that I do, because I'm in the financial space, is you want to make sure that you're following up with licensed, accredited financial experts to talk about your specific situation. Because yes, I'm going to go through general processes here in what we're trying to do to get to increase your score, but you also want to talk to someone that's specifically going to tell you about what's best for your situation. And with that said, right, you want to remember that you have to do what's best for your situation. You really do. Because my financial situation is not even going to be my wife's financial situation. Because even though it's actually one household and it's two incomes, it's two credit lives, but as far as the credit bureaus look at it, we are two separate individuals. You really can fix your credit by yourself, but it does not mean that you don't have to do some research. It doesn't mean you don't have to find out, like I said, what it is you need to do in order to get it done, right? So have no fear. You will be able to get through this, and you will be able to get through this without spending hundreds of dollars every year in order to have somebody tell you how to fix it. Even the credit bureaus themselves will tell you that it is possible to fix your credit on your own, right? But just remember that there's always hope if you have a willing attitude. So what I wanted to do now is go into with this myth number 5 here, and this is the last bullet point here, that that I wanted to bring up, other than my bonus one here. It will take me at least 7 years to fix my credit. So this is a hard and fast rule in finance and in credit, that it takes anywhere from 7 to 10 years to fix your credit, right? That if, let's say, you have a bankruptcy or you have a repossession or something like that, it takes 7 to 10 years for that to be removed from your credit. Now, knowing that that's the amount of time that everybody, when I say everybody, I mean everybody that is known in the industry, that's what they'll tell you. That's common knowledge. However, I have learned different, because you can literally negotiate with the creditor to have something removed from your credit. And when I know I mentioned earlier about not taking stuff off of your credit, like an old credit card that you have, unless you necessarily have to. But in certain cases, like let's say you have medical bills, you can definitely request that be removed from your credit, and that'll actually affect it in a very positive way. For those of us who are new to the credit game, I want to go through some fundamentals really quickly. So first, what is a credit score? Right? This is a common question for novices. A credit score is a number from 300 to 850 that depicts a consumer's credit worthiness factors and considered in a credit scoring, including repayment history, payments, and types of loans and credit history, and an individual's total debt. So when it talks about your total debt, it's talking about your rent, your utilities, your other responsibilities, because they want to make sure that you can literally afford to pay back this loan. So the companies who calculate your credit score, there's several different credit bureaus in the US, but the 3 major ones are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. That trio dominates the market, collecting and analyzing and dispersing information about you consumers in credit markets like financial institutions or lenders, right? Those are the 3 credit bureaus, the main ones that report on you as an individual concerning your credit. So obviously there's a difference between personal credit and business credit. That I will go into in another workshop, so make sure you don't miss that. But for personal credit, those are the main 3 that will be directly reporting on your activities as far as your credit worthiness. I did a video probably 3 or 4 months ago now, or a couple videos 3 or 4 months ago, in the adulting series. If you have not seen that, go to my YouTube page and check that out. It's called Adulting. So it goes through credit cards and things like that. So basically, what credit cards are, everyone knows what they really want to do when it comes to using a credit card. You want to have something to make purchases. You might not have all of the money right then and there, so you want to have that to leverage at least till you get paid again. So that's the general premise of what a credit card is and what people want to use it for. But what people don't really know is there's different types of credit cards. And I'm not just talking about annual percentage rates or balance transfers or things that are noted in the credit card industry. But two major types of credit cards is what I wanted to just quickly review here. So the first type, and the most common type for people that are starting out to build their credit, or are in a situation where they have less than perfect credit and they want to rebuild their credit. The first type is a secured card. So basically what a secured card is a credit card that is backed up or secured by the cash you have in your checking or savings account. And it's usually something that, like I said, it's the first line that they will refer you to. If you have, let's say, a score anywhere between 500 and 550, they will automatically try to route you towards a secured card. So that's one of the things I ended up doing is I got a secured card. Basically, you take, let's say your limit, you want your limit to be $500. You take $500 of your own money, preferably disposable income, money that has not have anything to do with your bills or utilities, and you take that and you'd say, hey, let's put this towards my secured card, and you have that $500, and once they approve you for that, based on the other factors in your household, like your other bills and responsibilities, $500 is what you have to spend. That's your maximum, right? You've heard people say maxing out credit cards. You've heard people talk about that. That is your maximum of what you have to be able to use. However, your credit usage is what financial companies use to say, okay, if I give you this $500, how quickly or how much of it are you going to use at a given time? And how your credit usage is and how fast you use it from the time you were approved for it or along the life of you having a credit card is what companies will do to decide if they want to take that risk. So it is called your credit utilization rate. If you want to be able to get a little further and build your credit and get in good standing so you can make bigger decisions financially, there's certain things you have to follow. So having that secured card and having your own money there, it would still function like a regular credit card in that you have to be able to make the payments on time and you have to be able to maintain a good standing. So you may not just making your payments on time, but making more than your minimum payments is my recommendation, is making more than your minimum payments and making sure that you use the card responsibly throughout the month. So that's basically a secured credit card in a nutshell. The unsecured credit card is probably one of the most known types of credit cards, where it's their money going to secure your credit card and that lending arrangement between them and you. So that is the unsecured, right? So it's usually secured, like I said, not by your cash, but by your credit worthiness and your ability to pay. So that's why it's always a good idea, even when you get approved for something like that. Let's even really use that example of $10,000. That we're not balling out of control here. We're not gonna go and have a huge party and stuff like that. Let's highly not recommend it, because not because you have something that means you use it to the maximum. And side note about the secured card, you can start that for as little as $50, and some of them have varying annual percentage rates because you're just building your credit. So you want to have the least amount of weight as possible, because the higher the APR, the annual percentage rate, the more interest they're going to charge you on top of the money that you're spending and you're looking to pay back. Talked about credit utilization and your credit utilization rate. It also refers to the ratio that the lenders use to determine, again, your credit worthiness, and a factor that's used to determine your ultimate credit score. What does that really mean? Like, most companies, most gurus, most financial experts out there will tell you a good utilization rate is about 30% of your entire limit. So let's say we're talking about $10,000. Let's keep using that figure because that's a nice round figure, right? So we're talking about, let's see, that would be just about $3,000, right? So of that 10, you have $3,000 that you should consider that 30% that you don't go over. That's what the experts recommend, right? Now, a lot of different things in society, especially when you're talking about retail and business and stuff, and you're talking about savings and sales and stuff like that, you got to be really careful about that language. When they say 50%, you can guarantee it's 50%, but that up to factor is the key here that I want you to keep in mind, because that up to factor makes a huge difference, and that is going to be the heart of the workshop today. Is because of that, they give you a number, and listen, in human nature, we focus on what we hear and what we see. So if you tell somebody that, hey, you have 30%, that's all we see is the 30%. Okay, so I got 30% and you're gone. But that up to makes a difference, because the idea is to use less than that. How much less is going to make a difference between how far and how fast you actually rebuild your credit. And yes, I did say how fast, because we discussed 7 years as the general consensus, but I'm here to tell you we did it in less than a year. And it's because of that up to piece of it that, we caught on to, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So we went over the 30%, we went over what credit utilization is, and we went over what credit is and how it can affect you, the people's perception about it, the myths that were some of them. But this is where I want to go over the biggest myth, in my opinion, and the bonus myth that I promised you in the beginning of this. And this is it. You do not have to wait till your due date to pay off your balance. So what me and my wife discovered is that if you use your credit card just like you would use your debit card, that card that they give you with your checking and savings account, if you use it just like that, that is probably the most powerful thing you can do, which means you do not use more than you actually have. So let's say you have that $10,000 credit limit on a credit card, right? But you only have $3,000 in your checking account at any given time. Let's say that's from your job, that's from savings or whatever. Let's say you have $3,000 in your account at any given point, right? You should never be using your credit card, regardless of the limit, above that $3,000, right? You should always aim for. So let's take that 30%, that $3,000. Let's say you have a flat tire, or you have something wrong with your car that you have to go get it fixed, and it costs $1,000 or $1,500. The thing about that is you'll be tempted to say, hey, no problem, let's just swipe the card and I will pay that off as I get paid. I get paid next week or 2 weeks from now, and I'll just make minimum payments like that as best I can. But here's the thing about that is when you pay minimum payments, and they'll suggest, and it seems like a benevolent gesture from a credit card company, hey, it's okay, you could just pay $25. I know your balance is like $1,000, but let's give you a break and you could only pay $25 a month. That's all we want. But here's the thing. That's how they make their money. The interest. So you actually end up paying at least 3 times what you actually spend. So you spend however long, usually years, paying off something as simple as that, and you end up paying way more money than you actually plan to. So here's the powerful thing that I've learned. Let's take that example, $1,500 car bill, right? And you pay that money But what you do is you take that $1,500 that's in your checking account the same day and you put that as a payment toward your credit card. So, one, when that credit card transaction shows up in your account, it'll be, and it usually takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to actually show up. So, the thing about it, if you make that payment the same day, so let's say you charge it and it's like 2 o'clock in the day, you wait till you get home at night or whatever it is, and you make that payment and you get it over with. So by the time it actually is supposed to hit your account, it actually doesn't, because the transaction will show up, yes, but they will also see you will also see a payment showing up in your transaction history. What they actually see when they're reporting, when these bureaus report on your credit, is that yes, you are building a length of time having that credit card or having these credit cards or these trade lines, as it were, right? But at the same time, you're paying off. You're still using it, but you're actually paying off the balance before it hits. So it's like it never happened. But they will still see the usage because whatever institution that you got the credit card from, they will report your transactions, right? So they will say, okay, this customer has paid on time, right? And this is how we have seen, when I tell you major jumps in our score difference in a positive way. So here's a couple tips here, right? The ultimate solution, I call it, right? Like I said, you use your credit card like a debit card, right? We discussed just now that you should only use your credit card if you have the actual funds in your checking or savings account. Here's a couple of the ones that may not be as comfortable, right? We discussed this one as well. Paying off every purchase within 48 hours in full. Now, we talked about probably like 30 minutes ago that you don't pay off balances in full. Remember I said that's a two-edged sword and it depends on the situation. When you're using, let's say you use it for gas, or you use it for, let's say, like your streaming services or whatever it is, right? If your payments, like you go get gas that day, you spend 50, 100, in certain markets like $200. I've seen some ridiculous numbers. Again, you make that purchase for $50 within 3 to 4 days. It's going, if it's left there, that's why I say 48 hours. So after 72 hours, it shows up on your credit report. Trust me, it shows up there. So what you want to do is head that off. So when they look and they see your balance is still at zero, right? So that comes out in your favor. And that hits to a big warning that I have is do not leave outstanding balances on your credit account past 72 hours. You have 3 days from the date of your purchase. So think about it like this. Make a purchase and from that date, it posts the next day. So you probably have another 2 days before it starts to show up on your credit report. So the key is not to have any balances on your credit card at all after 72 hours, if you can help it. Obviously, I understand things are hard, times are tight, and sometimes you cannot help that, right? But as much as you can, and think about it like this, right? Even though they will report that your usage got higher, let's say you can't afford to have that gone and paid off in full within 72 hours. It is a hard and fast rule that I have, but extenuating circumstances and you can't make that, you make sure to understand this. Yes, your score may take a hit, maybe a couple points, but like I said, it's not the end of the world. It can change. So once you make that payment as soon as you can, you will see that usage go down. And when your usage goes down and they check again, they will see it and your score will eventually recover. Now, it takes a couple weeks, maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks for your score to actually recover. The longest I have seen, in my opinion, as long as in my perception, as long as I've seen, is probably like 3 weeks, right? And this is provided that you maintain a decent credit score while in this process. Something that's integral here. I mentioned keeping your credit utilization rate at zero. That is the single most important key that I can attribute to massive gains in my credit score increases. When I tell you massive gains, massive gains. So trust me, keeping your credit utilization rate at zero, keeping your balance at zero, that is the best thing that you can have. So people think, like it's happened to me personally. Hey, I saw this credit card. It's something that I use on a regular, and I don't know whether I should apply for it. Go ahead and apply for it. I usually suggest, and again, this is education. I'm not a financial representative in that area in the credit field, but I can tell you that within a 30 to 60-day period, you should only be applying for maybe two things if you take on anything to try to apply for. And this includes things like if you're going to do research on a car and they tell you, like you want to buy a car, you've seen this car, you love this car and everything like that, but you want to go to the dealership to find out what are the goods on it, what's the specs on it, and things like that. The first thing they're going to want to do is have you fill out a credit app. Don't do it. The first thing they're going to want you to do is that, right? What you can do, because the important thing to figure out here is if this is something that can fit into your financial household. You want to figure out if that car, if that monthly payment, if that insurance, if all those costs of that car, you want to figure out if that can fit into your financial house where you are not strapped for cash at the end of the month because you've taken on this car. You want things to be a blessing, not a curse. Amen. So that's your goal when you go to that dealership. So what you tell them is you're trying to estimate a monthly payment. Now they will tell you, hey, there's only so much we can do outside of getting you to fill out a credit app. But there are simulators that you can take or that you can go to. We found one on Capital One that is a great simulator, but there's also one on a site that I use called Credit Karma. Most of you guys probably heard of Credit Karma. A lot of people have varying opinions about Credit Karma. I've talked to a couple financial people, a couple realtors, a couple bankers that they say Credit Karma may not be as reliable, but I have seen, for my situation, I've seen it as reliable because I've checked it with the actual credit bureaus, with Equifax, with TransUnion, and Experian. I've checked my actual credit profile directly with the bureaus, and it matches Credit Karma. So Credit Karma also has a simulator. Capital One also has a simulator. They have an app that is great. And again, this is not sponsored, but if y'all want to sponsor me, hey, I'm open to it. But this is not a sponsor. They don't pay me to say that. But those things are something you can do to monitor and to watch and to see, if I make this decision, will this affect me positively or affect me negatively, and how positive or negative is that? So those things are free. Like, okay, so the Credit Karma site is definitely one I recommend because it's free to start. There's very little things that you have to purchase at all. Obviously, you can upgrade and stuff like that, but you don't really need to in order to facilitate the process of fixing your credit, right? That's one. To the best of my knowledge, the Capital One app is not something you have to pay for. But when it comes to like the credit bureaus and stuff, like when you go to Equifax or you go to Experian or TransUnion, the Equifax and I believe it's Experian, those are free to a certain extent. So you can still sign up for free and see your score and things like that. But there are certain things that they will tempt you to say, hey, you can upgrade and you can get all these other features and all this stuff. When you're first starting out and you don't have that much money, you want to save. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. So you want to save as much as you can. So if I were you, and this is what I did, I started with creditkarma.com. Signed up for free, And actually, they have all these different things that you can monitor. And even in some cases, your bank will have things that they'll have financial calculators, they'll have financial simulators that you can also. So look into the bank and see if they have any tools. But I know those are the tools that helped us be able to track every single week or whatever it is. I know I highly recommend that anybody serious about their credit will check their credit and the credit profile and what they're doing, what their score is doing, how much it is, and how much is going up or down. It is great to check every single week. I do it every single week, and it might seem a little excessive, but it works, right? So, lastly, here, I wanted to review. I wanted to review here. Lastly, what is considered a good credit score? People have wanted to find out what's the holy grail. What is it? So, the experts will say a good credit score would be anywhere from 680 to 750, 775, right? That would be considered a good credit score, right? Where you want to shoot for, you want to obviously be in the 700s because that looks more favorable. And yes, it can be done quicker than 7 years. Now I will say this: results may vary because I'm not with you doing it with your personal financial situation. And these points, these things that I've outlined in this workshop today, will help you rebuild your credit and fix your credit faster than the 7 years that people project that it takes to fix your credit. Now, we obviously have not accounted for things like mortgages, medical debt, that's legitimate medical debt, and other things that will come, like personal loans and things like that. I will be reviewing other products on this channel, on my content, in a few weeks and in the next coming months. I want to be able to review these things, to have a step-by-step guide to help people to understand where they are, where they want to be, and how you get there. And one of the things I want to start doing in the next couple months is to be able to project and say, hey, I want this person, I want a loan officer to come and sit and talk with me. I want a realtor to come and sit and talk with me. I want, these different people that are in the financial services industry, life insurance agents. I'm a life insurance agent myself, just to come and sit and talk, because you guys deserve to know how it is that you can get from where you are to where you need to be, and to know that the avenues are there, the information is there, the people that are willing to help, like myself, are there. At the end of the day, I know this was a paid event, but I give so much value in my content, on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I give so much value, and I prefer to do that because of the fact that it's about helping people. If I can help people improve their lives, just one person, to help them improve their life and to help them get to a better financial state, and to help them to get to a better state, period, whether it's spiritually, whatever aspect you can think about. If I can help, that's what I'm going to do, because me personally, I want to leave this world better than I met it. So these are what these workshops are about for me. It's about helping people like myself and you get to a better state in life. So I hope that everything that I went over today was a blessing, that you were able to take some good notes and to at least take away some great things that you can actually use today. Like, I can highly recommend. Again, I'm not sponsored by them, but go to creditkarma.com and sign up and get access to that, because it's a wealth of information, a wealth of resources that you can actually look to, whether you're just fixing your credit, or you're looking to buy a home, or you're looking to buy a car, or get your next credit card, whatever it is. It's a great resource, and it's one I stand by because I use it for me. And if you see, that's the thing about me, if I recommend something, it's usually because I've used it myself. I have to be able to sleep at night, so I try to recommend things that I know personally about, that I've personally used. So when it's properly vetted by me, you know what the business is. So again, thank you guys so much for giving me the time. I pray that God bless you. I pray that He keeps you. I pray that He expands your borders, even today in this very moment. No matter what your past is, no matter where you come from, I pray that He continue to build and to strengthen you, even in these times. That no matter what, you will always have the strength to trust Him. That no matter what, your situation will be resolved and will be positively grown, and you will be a testament to His grace and to His goodness in Jesus' name. All right? Until next time, guys, live life, love God. See you when I see you. Peace.